How good is the RX 5700 XT here in 2024? This is the updated guide that we did last year on a very popular graphics card. On eBay, these graphics cards can go anywhere from $120 to about like $160-ish. They have 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and we're gonna test their gaming performance at 1080p, but also 1440p because they're gonna do better than you expect, so you better watch to find out. And here's the specs that we use for the benchmark. An i5-12600K processor, really awesome processor, with DDR5 RAM, 32 gigs, clocked at 5600 megahertz. So let's hop into the benchmarks. Apex Legends at 1440p, we tried max settings first, and we got around 150 FPS. And then when we lowered it to the lowest settings possible, we got over 200 FPS. Very smooth gameplay here at 1440p. But then we had to also try 1080p because a lot of people are playing 1080p if you have this graphics card. And we tried max settings there for Apex Legends, and we got like 180-ish FPS. And then when we try the low settings at 1080p with Apex Legends, we got pretty close to that 300 cap mark that you get on Apex because you can't go over 300 FPS. We got pretty close to it most of the time. We did try some other games, and to try to max it out a little bit, we did try Cyberpunk 2077, 1440p, ultra settings, no upscaling. We actually got 40 FPS, which I was really shocked by. This is 1440p, mind you, only 8 gigabytes of VRAM. I thought that was pretty awesome. You could tweak the settings, which we did a little bit, and we were able to get 60 FPS at 1440p, but that did require you to use some upscaling. At 1080p, however, we used the max settings, no upscaling, and 1080p, we were able to get 67 FPS. Halo Infinite, we just ran a simple test of medium settings at 1440p, only got like 80 FPS, but at 1080p, we were able to get around 130. If you like videos like this, please interact with it in some way to let me know that, and it helps the algorithm know where to put my videos. We tried the finals. It's on UEF5, Unreal Engine 5, so it's kind of all over the place in a little bit of testing that I've done so far on this game, but we were able to do 1440p epic settings and get around like 80-ish FPS. Then we lowered the settings all the way down, and we were able to get like around 120 at 1440p, which is, you know, pretty solid. But we only tried 1080p at the low settings because we just wanted to see what our maximum FPS number was with this combo that we had, and we got close to 200 FPS. It was probably around 180 most of the time. Every now and then it hit 200 though. Then we tried Ubisoft XDefiant, which is, you know, like Black Ops 3 without wall running, and it did pretty good. At 1440p though, the maxed out ultra settings really hurts your system. Like every time I've run ultra settings on XDefiant, it's been crazy demanding. So we got like 80 FPS on ultra settings, but then you just drop it down one level to high settings, and it shot our FPS all the way up to 120. And on some machines, I've seen it jump as much as like 80 to 100 FPS. So high settings is perfectly fine. You don't really need any more than that. And if you're like me, that you like to get every FPS ounce you can out of it, I did 1440p low settings, and we got like 280-ish FPS. Like that's crazy at 1440p. So this game is super optimized for lower systems, but of course, you know, we're gonna try 1080p because a lot of you do that. Again, we tried ultra settings first. It was like 140-ish FPS, which is pretty good. Then we dropped it to high again, just like we did in the previous settings, and that gave us like 170-ish FPS. And then at low settings, we never could really get any higher than what we did at 1440p, which was around 280 to 300 FPS. We played Warzone on the Resurgence game mode up next, and we got a pretty solid FPS numbers. We tried the balance preset settings at 1440p, no upscaling, and we were able to get around 100 FPS, really solid and smooth. Then we turned on FSR just to see what it would do, and we only got like 20 or 30 FPS more, so around that 130 mark, which, you know, if you're playing on console, they're still downscaling and using like FSR, like they're still doing that, so it's really not that much different. But then we tried 1080p ultra settings, no upscaling, got around like 150 FPS, and with FSR 3.0, we were able to get around 165. Now, it's not the best and most fantastic FPS, I guess you could say, but this is more than enough for Warzone. And of course, we saved the best for last, good old Fortnite. We tried both 1080p and 1440p performance mode and DX12. Now I will say this, with the latest AMD driver update, it's not like in DX12 with AMD GPUs. It's just not. I've tried the 7800 XT, 7900 GRE, and now the 5700 XT. So I have noticed that it's just kind of really bad at DX12 right now, unless you play 4 games. So far in all my testing, on the 4th game since this new driver update. So If you've watched the previous videos on my channel with AMD graphics cards, those were tested before this driver update. This driver update that was tested in June, it was updated on June 20th. June 20th. So I've tested all three of these graphics cards again since June 20th AMD driver update, and Fortnite DX12 is just terrible until you play 4 games. On that 4th game, the 1% lows kind of balance out and it's normal. But who wants to play 4 games to do that? Now our FPS average was around the same at 1080p and 1440p, which was around that 250-ish mark. But it took 4 games for the 1% lows to balance out, and so we're talking like single-digit FPS drops, down to like 2, 3, 5 FPS, just totally unplayable. That's not been the case before, so I'm hoping they fix this with AMD driver updates in the future. Maybe it's just me, maybe, I don't know. But I've done it with the 12600K, I've done it with the 7500F, which that video will be out soon if it's not already out. And so it's been really tough. But I will say this, with the driver update, performance mode has seemed to have gotten better. On performance mode, with the AMD graphics cards, our 1% lows have been around 75 to 100, which in past testing, I have not gotten that. I'm getting 75 to 100 on the 1% lows almost immediately, and we're not having the single FPS random drops like we were in DX12. It's a very, very smooth experience. Now with this particular graphics card, 1080p and 1440p are about the same, so we got almost 300 FPS in all the games that I tested. I ran 3 or 4 games with performance mode just because I was shocked that the 1% lows were so good, and they held steady in all of them. So as of right now, at the time of recording this video with AMD graphics cards, I'm saying you need to go performance mode, or unless you just want to play 4 games for it to balance out. But if you don't want to do AMD and NVIDIA as your game, then you may want to go watch this video, which is an older version, but there'll be an updated version very soon.